episode, I'm going to be talking about navigating life changes when it doesn't make sense or it doesn't feel like it's just confusing, or how, the change is beneficial, but it's also a lot. By using my own life. So I know some of you know my story, some of you don't. I don't even know what episode you're coming in on, but when I was 19, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. For 20 years, I basically lived the same life. I became the identity of I am bipolar, and therefore everything pretty much went around that. I never thought I was going to leave my hometown. I actually stopped working in 2004. One of the reasons I had gotten on a disability. And at that time, I was 19 or 20 or 21. I can't, you know what? I don't know. And so that kept going. And I made slow changes. Like, I kind of stayed in the same place until about 2009, when I moved a little bit of a town over, and then I ended up in Fresno, which was a bigger town, and I ended up staying there until 2024. But this was all within 45 minutes of the hometown that I was from. I had a lot of the same habits and things, and very much thought, I don't know if it necessarily was like, this is the way that it is, but it was more like I was going to, there wasn't much I could do. There wasn't much change that I could do due to my illness, due to my things, due to all of that. And so the growth was there, but super slow. Also, I was very afraid to do anything that would cause me to get sick. As time went on, I think in my 30s, it changed a little bit, where I branched out a little bit on certain things, especially in, I think it was 2019, I ended up like doing a weekly a craft fair where I went every Tuesday, and that really like tested my stuff, where it was like, oh, I'm going every week. I've got to show up every week. It's like when you signed up, you had to do the market for, I think it was from March all the way until November. So I showed up, I did these things, and it really kind of showed me that I could do something, but I still was like, I don't know. And then, of course, the Rona hit, and that was 2020, and the market shut down. And I didn't even know if I was going to do the market too, because I was feeling things were a little weird and stuff like that. But, the change was there, but super, super slow. And then, and like that was at the end of the 2020, when I found the tapping, I started tapping. Little did I know that would, help my entire life. But things started accelerating, I guess, in such a more faster way. But I was still living in the same town, still bipolar, still doing, all the things with that. So I was really, I remember in 2021, when the world started waking up again, I started testing things. So I was like, I shouldn't be able to do this. The thing that made me realize my bipolar was gone, I was like, maybe I can do, this was before I did that. This was like, maybe I can do some things. Well, I started doing some stuff, but they ended up being, it was like, it was good, but also a lot. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm doing the wrong things from the way that I felt. But since I still had my home, and I still could go home to my safety home, I couldn't really figure out really what was going on per se. I remember getting really like, oh, this is a lot. I remember feeling overwhelmed, but I seemed to have made progress in a way, but I also was like, it was very painful. in a lot of ways. So I was like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Why is this so painful? Why is this so much? And then in 2021, some other stuff happened. I had a really big awakening. I was like, you're like, you need to leave your husband. I had been with this guy for like 10 years. And I was like, I don't even know what to do. All this stuff happened, kind of imploded my life there. And, we ended up, parting ways. And that was when I met Edward, was in 2022. And he was different than any guy that I ever been with. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do something different with that. But I'm still living in the same house that I've been in 7 years. But things started to get, I guess, faster in the change. And so things were accelerating even more. But I was still like having these like symptoms or overwhelming of like, am I doing like the right thing? This is so uncomfortable. And they say growth is uncomfortable. I think it's kind of like when you're little and like you're growing and then all of a sudden you have a growth spurt and all of a sudden your knees hurt or whatever because you grew really fast. And eventually like you get used to your knees and the gangliness or whatever. But that's kind of, I guess, growth is supposed to be painful. It comes out of the comfort zone. And then I decided to move into an RV, which was completely opposite of my 20-year stint of whatever. And that's when things started really getting intense. And I started seeing like this growth and going on this path of going and things. I was in so much pain. Like I just really was like, how is this how it's supposed to be? And I only lived in the trailer for about 8 months. And then I ended up in Colorado. And that was like in a different, I remember driving here and almost just, shooting myself in the car and just being like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But knowing that like the growth was right. This is what I was supposed to do. And so I've been in Colorado about almost 2 years now. And it's been like this thing where I've noticed where I'm like, okay, the growth is uncomfortable, but I keep seeing that like the beauty of it, of how, even so how hard it is, the worthness of it. That's not a word, worthness. It's just worth it in that aspect. The changes in my life, the things that I have been able to eradicate, and I'm still doing, like, I'm still living, the human experience, but it's like I am seeing it and experience it in a way that I only dreamed about or at some time thought wasn't even possible. And so one thing, though, that really came to it was I still had problems listening to my intuition. And in spirituality, sometimes they're just like, everything should work out. And so there would be times where I would do something and I knew intuitively that it was not aligned for me. But I believed that, like, everything for a reason. This is what it's supposed to be. And I would override my intuition. I have gotten better at that. Of knowing that even though that may have worked for somebody else, or this is what it's supposed to be, or somebody says it's supposed to be, like, maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's not my dream. Maybe it's somebody else's dream. That's a big conditioning, I think, for all of us, especially because when we're kids, our parents or our caregivers had dreams for us or didn't believe in dreams. So they're like, you don't need to have dreams. And so very much conditioning. So we're out here trying to do that on our own. We're really just, trying to figure that out. So I've gotten better with listening to the intuitive of like, is this, even though this could lead me, is that the path that I'm supposed to go on? Is that where it's really, is that something that actually would benefit me on this journey? Especially thinking, I'm never going to go anywhere. This is I'm not, and I know some people really out there had a lot of dreams and had a lot of things, but then the regret comes in. It's like, did I not do it right? And in some ways, I don't think we didn't do it right. I think it's just that we didn't listen to the intuition and we took a harder path to where we're trying to go. So I feel like we all will eventually get to where we're supposed to be. But, there could be not necessarily the easy road, but a little bit more of the paved, or the one where we go through and there's spiders and it bit you and you're like you have to hack down all of the plants in the way because there was, and you still get to where you're supposed to go. And sometimes those paths are the ones we're supposed to go on. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to detour off and go to that weird side quest that actually gives us this knowledge that when we get back onto the main path that we can take with us, which we actually use down the road because it's all simultaneously happening at the same time. But it's a lot, and that journey forward to go on there, but it is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable, and I have gotten to the point here where I have come to another, I guess, up-leveling change. I knew coming to Colorado was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was so loud. The universe literally was screaming it to me. There's a lot of things that was supposed to happen here. And when I got here, it was a lot, like the pressures of what was supposed to happen here. And still learning to listen to my intuition of what was supposed to be. I got very lost in the stuff. But I feel like I've come to a place where I am very much more tuned in what's going on. And of course, once that started happening, more things have come in. And one of the biggest things that I have dealt with in Colorado is my health. And I thought that was really weird because I was like, I was supposed to be here. And so, I've been going to doctors, doing the things, and it turns out that I'm not adapting to the elevation here. It is wreaking absolute straight health havoc on my body. And I actually started getting like intuitive hits about this in, I want to say last like October, and we're in June now. But it didn't really make any sense. I was like, oh, what do you mean I gotta move again? Or I gotta do these things. I gotta do what, figure it out, So I was still fighting certain things on that way of doing that. And so eventually it got really loud and I needed to listen to that. And it's asking me to do another up level. It's asking me to go forward on something else. It's asking me to look at, I have built something amazing here. But my physical body, which is what the meat suit that we hang out in the human experience, is suffering greatly. And so I have to make the decision. I have to really tune in and be like, what do we do here? And it's going to be probably that I'm going to have to move on from this area. And months ago, that actually really scared me. And now that I sit here and really knowing and listening to the intuitive of telling me there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the fact that my body does not like the elevation. There's people who do, like who's really have tuned in and has done that. But I could sit here and choose to be like, you know what? I could do better. I could do this things. And I'm doing some stuff to help and, help me try to, health wise, get through the time of saving and going forward. But I know that if I don't listen to this next calling that scares me to death, my health will probably get worse. Things will probably get worse. And I very much know that everything is a reason, and everything has its seasons, and everything has its way. And me not embracing the seasons kept me stuck for 20 years, from 19 to 39, in such a small, tiny box that when I busted out, I was like in such that cage that, like, I don't know if anybody's seen Bubble Boy, where he wasn't actually allergic to outside, but like when he got outside, he got sick pretty fast and stuff like that. Eventually his body got used to it because he wasn't allergic to anything. His mom just kept him in the bubble. But like trying to figure out outside of that bubble, like things wreaked havoc. And so I don't want to do that anymore. I want to flow. I want to be flexible enough to go where I can live my best life on this earthly plane and, do it to the best of my ability and know that I only know what's the best for me. And that's okay. Even if it doesn't make sense to me or other people. Even if it doesn't do that. And I think on our path, we don't want to upset others. We don't want to upset our own cart. Like me, our health to get crazy. And I noticed that my health was very much crazy at the beginning of this, but as things even out, certain things didn't end up leaving. And that ended up being the environment that I'm in. And so really stepping into this and being open to another path that was scary. And since I've figured this out, two things have fast tracked it in the ways of helping me actually do things in a way that's less hard than it used to be, because I'm trusting and I'm just doing the best that I can. And yeah, I am suffering. My health is in the toilet. And I've worked, through trauma and stuff like that. It's turning out to be something that is very 3D and very much in the thing. And we can change everything. We create our entire reality. And we don't have to suffer unnecessarily. And so making the decisions to make the change, no matter how hard it is, no matter if it doesn't make sense, no matter if it's something that we really want to do that doesn't align with even what we have been told or taught or we have believed for so long but feels right in that soul, we've just got to go for it. We've got to go for it. And we're going to make mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes lead us to beautiful, beautiful things. They're lessons. They're lessons on the road to life. So I hope this has helped somebody in the aspect of, making hard decisions towards things, especially when things are good in so many other areas, of making another change when you've made so many changes already. But we're here to learn. We're here to learn and remember back to of who we were, before we stepped into that human experience. And that can be hard. But coming back to ourselves is really, really worth it. And doing the hard things to make everything easier overall is definitely worth it. So I am sending so many vibes to everyone as we traverse this human experience together. And, as I always say it, we definitely all have got this.